Hello everyone, and welcome back to another weather update. Tonight we're going to be mainly talking about the tropics and this area right here off of the coast of the southeast United States, and we'll quickly talk about Gordon as well, but we'll mainly be talking about the tropics. And then at the towards the end of the video we'll be talking about the low end severe weather risk for tonight, tomorrow on Sunday, and then on Monday. But if y'all are new to the channel, or this is your first time watching a video of mine, welcome, and please consider subscribing or liking the video, or disliking it if you dislike it, but or even commenting if you want to. That's completely fine with me. Any one of those you can feel free to do, and I would greatly appreciate it if y'all would subscribe or like the video. It would really help me out and help my channel to grow. Also, I will have chapters in the video, so if y'all want to skip around, feel free to do that and go to any part of the video y'all want to see. I'll have timestamps for the tropics part of the video, and then I'll have timestamps for the severe weather part of the video. So if y'all want to go to the severe weather part or just see the tropics part, then feel free to go to any part of the video, and it should be down in the description and kind of near the video timeline, so y'all can do that if y'all want. But first here we're going to be talking, we'll look at Gordon, and then we'll look at this area right here. But Gordon is down here into the central Atlantic, and it's still not really expected to affect anybody at this time. But Gordon is as you can see right to the right of my cursor, you can see the maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, 40 knots. And it is a low pressure of 1004 millibars at this time, as of the latest 7:18 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time update from for Saturday, September 14th, 2024. And so it's moving kind of, it's not moving real slow, but it's kind of moving just slower than it has been, and it's moving west at 9 miles per hour. But again, this is not expected to really affect anybody, but we'll talk about it quickly in the weather models part in the video, later into the video. But then looking to the west and looking off of the coast of the southeast United States, we do have this area here that we've been talking about the past couple of videos, and this area does have a 50% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone within the next 2 days, and then going to the 7-day outlook, still a 50% chance there as well. So the chance of this has increased quite a bit over the past couple of days, and confidence has increased with this disturbance off of the coast of the southeast. And really we'll just be talking about this, and y'all can read that, or pause the video and just read all that stuff there. I won't be reading it, but just feel free to pause the video if y'all want to read that. But we'll be looking at the weather models in just a second, and really looking at this disturbance and how it might affect parts of the southeast United States, maybe even the mid-Atlantic. But that'll be the main thing we'll be talking about in the video, and we'll look at the weather models in just a second. So now, starting off with the weather models, we'll be looking at Tropical Storm Gordon just for right now. We'll quickly take a look at Gordon, and then we'll look at the other area off of the coast of the southeast. But so looking at the 18Z GFS here, and here is Gordon showing up as a 1007 millibar low pressure there. And again, Gordon is not really supposed to affect anybody, and it'll eventually just weaken and dwindle out there, and just kind of get caught into some upper level winds, and really not even have the chance to strengthen at all. And looking at the upper level winds here, you can kind of see some shear affecting it on Monday, and then it eventually just kind of gets caught into that flow there, and it also gets into very dry air, and that just limits it from developing or strengthening any further. As you can see, all that dry air around it, and just gets into that circulation, and just dwindles out there. And that shows up the same with the European model. and it shows even more dry air around that, so it doesn't really get too much further before just weakening out there and not really affecting anybody. But that's about it for Gordon. I really wasn't going to make Gordon a major part of the video because it's not really supposed to affect anybody. But now look at the southeast US and look at our area. Look at the area off of the coast of the southeast. So first here we'll be starting with the 18Z GFS. So we'll go to the forecast. There we go. And so we'll go to our rain. So you can see all this moisture off of the southeast coast, and then you finally get a low pressure. It looks like a low pressure kind of develops and starts to deepen slightly tomorrow morning on Sunday, and then we could see a low pressure tomorrow, but this will be something we'll have to figure out as we get into tomorrow and eventually Monday. But the GFS has it kind of making a landfall, you could say, sometime maybe late tomorrow night, very late tomorrow night into early on Monday. This is there's a lot to really figure out here, and we'll look at the other models in just a second, but mainly just looking at the GFS as it going and making a landfall basically in South Carolina, and then dumps a lot of rain and probably some gusty winds into the Carolinas, and eventually just heads to the north, and that leftover moisture continues to move to the north into Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, eventually New Jersey a little bit there. And then we'll look at our relative humidity values, and as you can see, this moisture is just kind of hanging out here off of the coast of the southeast, and it really gets on the GFS. It starts to really to get more rich moisture into this area, and then it just begins to not rapidly intensify, but kind of get its act together and eventually make that landfall. Looking at upper level winds here, you don't have a lot of upper level winds that'll start affecting it tomorrow, but then by before landfall, and as it makes as it gets onto land further inland, it starts getting hit with some shear, and you can see this shear out here into Louisiana and Arkansas, and then you can just see it kind of making basically a trough right here, and then just pushing that system to the north. And that's really one of the reasons it's not going anywhere else, because it's getting pushed up by that shear. And this is actually really the only area that is not being affected by shear off of the southeast coast, and really, most of the areas into the Gulf are being affected by shear, and then that dry air is being pushed into the Gulf. You can see right here, dry air from up to the central United States is just getting pushed into the Gulf, and then nothing is really developing there, and then you have that moisture there, the isolated moisture, and then that gets pushed into the Carolinas there. But now switching to the European model, we'll look. The 18Z should go far out enough. Looking at the precipitation again, so tomorrow, midday tomorrow, this has the low pressure quite a bit farther off of the coast of the coast of the Carolinas, and the Georgia coast and East Florida coast. Has it quite a bit farther out to the east, and then eventually tries to slowly move it to the west, and then eventually to the north as a 1004 millibar low pressure midday Monday, and then 1003 kind of Monday evening, and then eventually a 1003 goes all the way down to a 1002 low pressure, and then eventually a 1001 low pressure, and basically makes a landfall into North Carolina as a 1000 or 1001 millibar low pressure. And same thing, has it dumping quite a bit of rain into North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, much of the mid-Atlantic, and just pushes on up to the north. And again, I know I said this in the last video, I really won't be looking much at the northeast because it's just too early to tell really where this system will go. And by the time it reaches farther north, there won't be, at least for right now, there won't be a lot of moisture left, only really for areas into the mid-Atlantic and southeast. So I don't think the northeast will really get too much from the system besides just a little bit of rain and maybe some winds, but probably none, if any. So that's the European. And then same thing here, looking at the relative humidity values, gets this area of moisture off of the coast of the southeast, and eventually just moves that up to the north and has it going up there. And then looking at the upper level winds, same story here. Those winds kind of curving here, and then eventually going up north, and that'll eventually just push that system up there into North Carolina, Virginia, and into the mid-Atlantic there. Now switching from the European model, and we'll look at the Canadian model real quick. Let's see, we'll go to, so the Canadian has this, it's not really sure where the low pressure will develop. It just kind of skips around here with all this moisture, and then eventually does get a low pressure that will develop, and then by early on Monday morning has a 1008 millibar low pressure, and then pushes a 1007 millibar low pressure into North Carolina there, and brings that moisture up to the north and into Virginia, West Virginia, and then up into the mid-Atlantic and parts of the northeast there. Not really a lot to look at on the Canadian. Let's see, we'll look at the upper level winds. Same thing here. Canadian is agreeing with the GFS and European model. Same story here, pushing that up to the north. So compared to, just going back to the European and GFS right quick, they've started to kind of agree with each other, and generally the agreement is we might have some sort of landfall, you could say somewhere in maybe South Carolina and all the way up to maybe parts of eastern or northeastern North Carolina, but really there's still a lot to figure out where this low pressure will develop, how far east it will develop, how quickly it's able to organize, and that'll be something else. If it's able to organize quicker and deepen a lot quicker, we'll probably have a landfall a little bit farther to the east, maybe into North Carolina. But if it just stays weak, we'll still probably get a South Carolina or North Carolina landfall, but it'll be more towards the NC South Carolina border there. But going off of the GFS and European, and now switching and going to the Icon model here, we'll go all the way back to the start of the run. So we'll be looking at the 18ZS run here, and so it just has this moisture here off of the southeast coastline, and eventually gets a low pressure that starts to slightly deepen early on Monday, late tomorrow night, and then gets a low pressure and gets all the way to a 999 low pressure Monday evening, and has a landfall pretty much in eastern North Carolina there, and then just really starts hitting parts of eastern North Carolina and the Outer Banks there, and then eventually has it going kind of northwest and then making a path to the north there. We'll look at, can't really look at anything else for that, but that'll be about it for the global models. And now we'll quickly look at the the HRRR and the NAM. I think the NAM, so the NAM is still loading, but we'll look at the HRRR for right now. We'll look at the 0Z run here from the HRRR. It shouldn't go out too far, or far enough really, but it goes to Monday night. So the HRRR does have it. It doesn't have it really strengthened in too much, and just has this moisture kind of wobbling around here off of South Carolina and North Carolina, and eventually kind of has it moving into eastern North Carolina, similar to kind of the icon. But yeah, it really does not have it going too much farther to the west, but mainly into North Carolina. Now finally we'll probably finish with the models by looking at the 12 kilometer NAM here, and the NAM does go out far enough, but the NAM is the most aggressive out of most of the models, really all the models, and I personally don't think it'll be as strong as what the NAM is continued to show, but we'll show it anyway. So it does have that low pressure developing and forming early tomorrow on Sunday, and then by tomorrow Sunday morning has it as a 1005 millibar storm, and then by Sunday evening, Sunday tomorrow evening on the 15th, it has it all the way as a 999 millibar storm, and then kind of keeps it in a 998, then goes and continues to deepen, and it already has it at a 995 storm by Monday morning, and then goes to a 997, 996, and then kind of makes a landfall as a 996 to 998 storm on the 12 kilometer NAM. And again, this would be the worst case scenario because it is able to develop and intensify a little bit quicker out here, and again, that would be the scenario we don't want. But this would have it making a landfall basically as a kind of mid-range tropical storm, and just dumps rain all into the Carolina, mostly North Carolina, but parts of South Carolina, and then eventually Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky there gets some rain from that. But this again would be the worst case scenario. But real quick before we finish up with the models, we'll look at the GEFS and the EPS ensemble. But first we'll start off with the GEFS ensemble here, and we'll look at the members. And so the GEFS ensemble does have a little more, I would say, higher confidence compared to the previous days that a low pressure will form off of the South Carolina or North Carolina coast. But it does have a little bit of a signal there for those storms, for those systems, and eventually gets that on up to the north there. So right here you can see, most members stay above the 1000 millibar threshold there, and then switching to the EPS ensemble. The EPS ensemble is the Euro, obviously, but it does have it a little bit stronger and a higher, kind of has higher confidence in a lower pressure storm. Some members, I know it's hard to see, but some of them have it as a 997 storm, 996, 998 there, but most of them stay above the 1000 millibar threshold there again. So I hope we don't see a storm below 1000 millibars, but we really can't rule it out. But I personally don't see that really happening. But the Euro, the EPS ensembles does have a little more variability here with some of the models, or some of the members, kind of going into Virginia, and eventually kind of going into parts of the mid-Atlantic instead of going into North Carolina or South Carolina. So there's always that possibility as well, but most of them have that making a landfall into North Carolina or South Carolina there. But other than that, that'll be it for looking at the models on the Tropics tonight. Now switching to the severe weather part of the video, and first we'll start off with our day one outlook, and I'll do how I've been doing usually, and show the outlooks day by day, and focusing on that day with the models, and just continuing on to the next day after I finish with that particular day. So first here we have the day 1 convective outlook, and this is the 01Z update, and this will update in a little over 3 hours from now, as I'm recording this at 9:55 Central Daylight Time, 9:55 p.m. Central Daylight Time, excuse me. But we do have a marginal risk here in 2 parts of south central North Dakota, into parts of central South Dakota, and then into parts of north and northwestern Nebraska there. We do not have a tornado risk with this. That's a good thing for sure. We do have a 5% wind risk with this, all the way from Nebraska and then into parts of North Dakota there. And then we do have a smaller 5% hail risk with this, all the way from central South Dakota into parts of Nebraska there. So looking at the 0ZHRRR and looking at these storms, so there really isn't a lot of storm activity left, but there could be a few storms that kind of form and get going, mainly into North Dakota or South Dakota. Nebraska for the night is about over for storm activity, but you do have a few showers and storms out here that could produce some damaging winds or hail over the next hour or two, and then those storms continue to pretty much lift to the north there, and continue to move north, and eventually just move into parts of Canada. And then you could get some more storms or clusters of storms that form later into the night and early tomorrow on Sunday, and those eventually just continue off to the east, and then you could have some showers into parts of northern Minnesota there. Look at an instability real quick. Mixed layer Cape, you do have a little, you don't have substantial instability, but you do have plenty of instability into parts of eastern North Dakota, places of over 2,500 joules per kilogram of mixed layer Cape, and mostly a larger area of 1,500 to 1,000 plus joules per kilogram of mixed layer Cape there. And then into eastern South Dakota, you could have pockets of 1,500 joules per kilogram of Cape, and further into Nebraska here, you could have 2,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer Cape in some spots, and then just some pockets of 1,500 joules per kilogram of mixed layer Cape there, and just some pockets of instability. And then that will the instability will kind of wane out by tomorrow morning, and then it'll eventually just you'll lose that instability as you get farther into the night tonight into tomorrow on Sunday. Now looking at the day 2 outlook, and this is for Sunday, September the 15th, 2024, and this is the 1730Z update from today. And so we do have a small marginal risk here, all the way from parts of northeastern Colorado into parts of eastern and southeastern Wyoming, into parts of far western Nebraska, and then into an area of southwestern South Dakota there. And we do not have a tornado risk with this. For our marginal risk, we do have a wind risk, and same areas there, all the way from northeastern Colorado into southwestern South Dakota and eastern Wyoming. And we do have another hail risk with this, and same with that, all the way from southwestern South Dakota into parts of northeastern Colorado with that risk there. First, looking at the central U.S., and then we'll move farther up north in just a second. But you have storms and some showers that begin to form really tomorrow, midday tomorrow on Sunday, and then you have some showers and storms that move to the east, and then you do have some stronger storms that kind of show up here on the 0ZHRRR into parts of eastern Colorado and Nebraska there, and then those continue to the north, and some stronger storms will get going farther north. But most of the storms throughout parts of Nebraska and Colorado, as well as parts of Wyoming, should basically move out by late tomorrow night, and we'll move to the north here and look farther into our northern sector. And you don't have a lot of activity really before midday tomorrow, but then you do have a few of those storms that begin to form later tomorrow evening into South Dakota and Wyoming there. And then eventually you do have some stronger storms and some clusters of storms moving into South Dakota, and then definitely a few strong storms and maybe severe there into North Dakota and South Dakota, and then plenty of storms, and maybe kind of like a line almost of storms there that move into South Dakota and from North Dakota, and that'll definitely be responsible for that wind risk there. And the HRRR also shows maybe another line or clusters that kind of develop into a line that get going early Monday morning, and this would be all the way from parts of South Dakota into Nebraska, and then farther south into parts of Kansas there possibly. We'll look at the NAM and see if it shows that as well. We'll look right here. So the NAM doesn't really show that, so I'm not too sure about that with those storms. But the NAM does show some storms and some showers that get going into Nebraska and Kansas, but not a defined line like the HRRR model shows for that. But we'll quickly look at the instability on the HRRR, starting with our central U.S. sector again, and we'll look at mixed layer CAPE. So you do have quite a bit of CAPE that gets into Nebraska as well as Kansas, but you will have quite a bit of instability into Nebraska. 2,500 joules per kilogram of mixed layer CAPE there, and then around that, well over 1,000 and 1,500 in some spots. And we'll go to the northern sector here, and then we'll go and look into South Dakota and North Dakota, and again, quite a bit of instability that moves into these areas. 2,500 there, and then some spots over 2,500 joules per kilogram of mixed layer CAPE, even into areas of Minnesota. But a lot of this CAPE will fuel some of those storms and clusters that move into South Dakota and North Dakota, responsible for that wind risk. Looking at our 850 millibar winds here for tomorrow, you don't have a major low-level jet, but I would think that this low-level jet could really help some of these storms kind of move to the north quicker, and eventually just fuel those storms. And looking at our 500 millibar winds, which are the upper level winds, you have some maybe some lower to mid 20 knot upper level winds into South Dakota and North Dakota, even into North Dakota, maybe reaching the mid to upper 30 knot range in some areas. We'll click an area right here. We'll do a sounding here real quick, but don't have a lot of CAPE into that area. We'll look further to the south and see if we can get a better sounding. But yeah, you can see right here a quite unstable environment there, and then you do have a little bit of upper level winds and some not real strong, but you do have some lower level winds there as well that do support that tail end wind risk with those storms. But that'll be it for the day 2 outlook. Now finally looking at our day 3 outlook, and this will be for Monday, September the 16th, 2024. And we do have a marginal risk here all the way from parts of northwestern New Mexico, northeast Arizona, and then into parts of western Colorado, into quite a bit of central, quite a bit of Utah into central Utah, and then into northeast Nevada there. And then looking at the probabilistic, a 5% at this range and a 5%, as you can see, is a automatic marginal risk for the day 3 range at this time, but there is a marginal risk there. So looking at Monday's severe weather risk, looking at the GFS, and we'll only be looking at the GFS for this, or not only the GFS, but we'll be looking at the GFS and not the short range models, because it's still too far out to really look at that on the short range models at this time. But so you can see this major trough here really digging down and dive into the south here, and that'll be responsible for our Monday severe weather risk. And you can see these mid-level winds, these 500 millibar winds, really just pumping down to the south, and then eventually to the east, and just wrapping around here, and then charging up to the north right there. And we'll look at our precipitation here, and you can see this system a little bit better. You can really see that low pressure there, right there. You have a 997 millibar low pressure, 994, and that eventually kind of moves to the northeast there, but a strong low pressure. And we'll look at our 850 millibar winds right here. Let's see, we'll go to Monday here. So you do have those winds really starting to pick up from the south, and then into some areas. We'll go back to the regional sector here, but really on Monday you can have those winds. Some areas, I know it's harder to tell in these areas because of the Rocky Mountains, but some areas, I mean, even into Arizona, you have a mid to upper 30 knot low level jet there, and a maybe even a lower 40 knot low level jet in some of those areas. And so we'll look at dew points real quick as well and see how that moisture gets carried. So you don't have a lot of moisture into Nevada and into really Utah, or really into Colorado, but you do have some moist air really into Arizona here. And we'll take a sounding. We'll go kind of farther to the north where we might have some stronger low level winds, but we'll click right there. So this really isn't a great sounding. You don't have a lot of instability here, but you do have that transport of moisture, and you do have a little bit of low level jet there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But we'll go farther into we'll go later into the day on Monday, and then we'll click. This will probably be a better sounding, but you have a little bit of instability here and a little bit of a low level jet. But I really don't think there'll be a major tornado risk with this. Really, I don't. There might not be a risk at all with this, a tornado risk, but I do see there being maybe a low end wind risk or possibly a hail risk with this. But the wind risk will probably be the main thing to watch out for Monday. So that'll be it for tonight's update. I do appreciate all of y'all watching, and I may have a video out tomorrow, but I probably won't be making a video, but I should have one out at least by Monday. I mean, I may try to make one tomorrow, but I doubt that I'll have one out. But definitely by Monday, or at least sometime Monday evening or Monday night. This is probably the most videos I've had out in a long time, because I think this is my third video in a row, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but I've been trying to do videos more, trying to be more consistent with my videos. And if I could keep an upload schedule where I at least have 2 videos a week would be great, but 3 or 4 would be even better. But again, I do appreciate all of y'all watching, and I do kind of apologize for being a little my energy going down through the severe weather part of the video. I'm just really just getting trained out by these videos, or by this longer video, not these videos, but by this longer video, because I think we're at about 35 minutes now. So, and I'm losing my voice a little bit, but I'm gonna end the video before it gets any worse. And again, I do appreciate all of y'all watching, and any of y'all who did watch to the end of the video. I do really appreciate that. Again, if y'all are new to the video, I really would consider subscribing or liking the video. It would really help me out and just help me improve these forecasts later on, and it would really help me reach a larger audience, which I'm trying my best to do. But yeah, that would really help me out. But again, you don't have to do that by any means, but feel free to leave feedback in the comments as well if y'all want to, positive or negative. I'll take it. And then yeah, if y'all have anything that y'all want me to change, or have anything y'all want me to look at more that I don't look at beforehand, I really would be open to any feedback. But I am going to end the video here, so I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's night, or a great start to y'all's Sunday whenever y'all are watching.